The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah!
Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on the break!
With Ambar Garcia, Brian Broaddus, Vach Lombardi, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Friday, August 29th, 2025, season 21, episode number 29. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break. We are live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star, presented by LG. LG is the world's #1 OLED TV brand for 11 years and counting. See why at lg.com/OLED Evo. Thank you guys for joining us today. There's so much to talk about. Had no idea when we ended our show yesterday. Well, I can't say that. There were things.
We heard stuff.
Yeah, we heard stuff that by the time we ended our show made it a possibility, but I don't think I allowed myself to go all the way there until I heard the words, they traded him.
Yeah.
And then here we go. Cowboys have completed a trade with the Green Bay Packers. They send Micah Parsons to Green Bay. They get a couple first-round picks back. They also get a player in Kenny Clark, defensive tackle, who is in the building. We saw him this morning. He has arrived with his family. And so we're going to break all that down. I guess let's just start. I think before we get into the nuts and bolts of what happened and why it happened, I just wanted to get your first initial reaction once you heard that the deal was done and that Michael would no longer be a Cowboy.
Man, I think Jerry's just tired of getting beat upside the head by the Todd Francis of the world and all these other agents that represent these players that feel like, hey, you can get your way with the Dallas Cowboys if you just say, hey, I want to go somewhere else. I'm not going to do this. And I think Jerry was just tired of all the noise about it and the back and forth about it. And I just think he decided to put his foot down. This is just me assuming. I am no reporter. I don't know nothing. But if I had to guess, it's always been this bad feeling around. But can we agree to a deal? But then the agent comes in. Is it 5 years? Is it 4 years? It just seems like a lot. And according to public idea, it started with like Rocky Arsenal, right? Like, hey, Zeke beat you upside the head. Now, then Tank got his money, beat you up a little bit. Zach and all these guys. I think Jerry just wanted to win for himself. And I listened to the press conference. Well, we'll talk about the press conference. But just my initial feeling, I was like, damn, they did it. And I didn't think that they would do it because they normally pay their guys. That's their thing. We pay our own, but not this time.
I mean, my initial reaction yesterday was I wanted to cry. I was like, no. Then the skies turned gray and it started storming around here and thunders and a bunch of rain. I'm like, oh my God. Nobody else in the office wanted to cry. And I'm like, what is happening? Am I the only one feeling this way? But the thing is, Jerry Jones knows his business and knows what to do. At the end of the day, you have to take those feelings aside and look at the big picture. I honestly feel that they got worse. They're worse right now without Micah Parsons on the team at the moment. But in the long run, looking at the future, you're better off. And this was a really good trade that the Cowboys were able to make. So initial thought, and that's the other thing. A lot of people, I see them referencing The Gambler, the new show, Jerry Jones, the documentary that came out on Netflix. Go watch is really, really good. But a lot of people referencing the strategic business aspect that he brings into it, and that at the moment it might seem terrible for the team, the fans, and everybody. But in the long run, it turns out to be very successful and helpful for the team.
When Jerry Jones uttered the words, they wanted to start where I stopped. That's all you needed to know. Mm-hmm. That's where this thing was going to end. And it ended for Micah Parsons this way and for David Mulugheta. They talked about some things. Jerry was willing to take it to a certain point. We need to kind of figure out, though, really, is there more to the certain point? It sounded like that Jerry was offering that there were some things that they kind of were able to hash out and agree on. But when he uttered those words, that's when this thing all ended. And they did what they had to do. They moved on from a player that's one of the top 5-6 players in the National Football League. Did they get something back in return? They felt like to me they were selling the fact of playing run defense. I'm okay with that, but if you knew the run defense was going to potentially be this way. Why didn't you do something earlier on the run defense? That's just kind of the timing of it makes me a little bit perplexed, if you want to say. But if and another thing I kind of was thinking about too was that if you think your offense is going to be as good as it is, now you're in a situation where all of a sudden you're scoring points, you're putting people, you're forcing offensive coordinators on the other side to have to score along with you. Where's your pass rush going to come from? Where's your pressures going to come from? So you got great news on Diggs coming back early. That's really positive. But now where's your pass rush going to come from? And I think those are the questions we'll see as the season plays out.
I actually wasn't the biggest fan of what the Cowboys got back. I mean, shouts out to Kenny Clark, and he's a good player. He's no Dexter Lawrence like it sounds like Jerry Jones is trying to sell us. But Kenny Clark is a best player. And I asked Brian this morning, we were just working together. I said, Brian, Kenny Clark may be the best one tech you've had since David Irving, and that's just maybe how the Cowboys value one tech. So that may not be the best thing in the world, but it is a fact. But in terms of the draft picks, I don't think there's going to be some big move where you bring in some new players. The Cowboys love those picks. They're probably going to spend those first-round picks on draft picks. But with a guy like Micah, a player like Micah, you can argue he's the best defender in the whole league. I mean, shouts out to Kenny Clark, but I would have wanted more than just 2 first-round picks.
Let's talk about why we got here. I know you guys kind of intimated. I've kind of I'm going to throw out 3 different things that I think could be a part of this, and I want you guys to tell me which you think is probably more or which ones are less Micah's attitude. I've heard people talking about maybe the last straw was the whole situation on the sideline last week where he's laying on the table. Some think that maybe it's just to improve the long term. They look at Micah and they say, over the long term, we think we do better with the 2 first-round picks than we are necessarily paying a big contract to Micah in addition to the big contracts we've already paid. And then the other being the money, the amount of money that Green Bay was willing to give him versus the amount of money the Cowboys were willing to give. And as you said, Brian, as Jerry talked about in the press conference, they wanted to start the negotiation where he wanted to stop. That's hard to get past. So as you look at those 3, and you guys can throw in others, but what do you think was the biggest impetus behind the Cowboys making this move?
I think it actually had to do with when Micah Parsons decided to get the second medical opinion. I think that's where this thing really went south for them. I think there were some things leading up to this trade, but I think when all of a sudden it's Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, and you could say what you want about the medical staff. I know there's people out there that love to comment, well, look what the Athletic gave them this grade, da-da-da-da-da, they're no good and all that. That's all a bunch of BS. I've known these guys for 15 years. Some of the best medical people in the country, Dr. Dan Cooper, all these, the trainers here are outstanding, and you could talk about all the things about that, but that's not accurate at all. But what I do know is, though, when Micah went out to get that second opinion, that all of a sudden that's like a slap in the face right there.
Why is that important, Brian?
I think it's important because, again, Jerry and Steven really they trust this training staff. They trust the doctors. They trust all the people, that the specialists that they bring in, and they have MRIs and they read it and they say, hey, but the player has the right to get the second opinion if he wants. But I think that was kind of a mechanism. Okay, go get an opinion. But are you trying to get money for me not playing this football game? And I think that's kind of where this thing all went really, really south with them.
I'll just comment on Micah's attitude. I wouldn't even think that has a whole bunch to do with it, because if you're a good player, we'll deal with a lot of your nonsense. Dez Bryant was a maniac, but if you go out there catching passes, we'll just act like it didn't even happen. So I wouldn't even think that
over the short term.
Over the short term, if it's constantly building it. Yeah. And look, we've heard the rumors. And in this building, I just got here, but as a fan, I've been hearing the rumors. So that lets you know how loud the rumors really are. Yeah. Like, hey, maybe this guy doesn't work as hard. Maybe he's not as all in. Maybe these, he wants to be a leader. The visuals of it, like, hey, let me help Mozzie on camera, but when it's time to do leadership stuff. I remember Dak in the middle of contract talk, Dak just showed up to practice, kept on throwing the ball, and said, I'm getting my money regardless. I think that's the Joneses' idea of what leadership is. So maybe they're more likely to work with him. But if you say that you want to be a leader and this star, this brand and everything like this, and you're going to show up and be there for camp, I think they wanted to see Micah practice. If Micah showed up in practice and still say, hey, I want more money, this may have went a totally different way, possibly. But the fact that he's kind of sitting out, I'm laying out on the bench, the optics are bad and all this kind of stuff, I think that probably, helped out too. And then it happened in the offseason. So there's not like it happened in week 3, but he just went to go get 4 sacks, so we could just not even think about it. Nothing's happening right now.
Right.
So all we get is nothing but bad, and it probably just, turned out that way.
I think if Jerry wants you, he's gonna get you. Like if he wants to keep you as a player, he's gonna find a way to do so. And I believe that that whole thing that happened the last preseason game where he laid on that medical table, that's a sign of disrespect, because you look at what Schottenheimer is trying to build here, the culture that he's trying to build, and that gesture right there goes completely the opposite way of what he's trying to do. You're disrespecting the team. You're disrespecting the players that are on the field. Yeah, you can come in. You just see the pictures and the videos of it. It's the whole demeanor. Like if you're trying to stretch your back, that's one thing that's visible. You can see that. But in the way that he was laying, I think that was like a slap to the face to the team, and they're not going to take the disrespect. And also, looking at what Micah Parsons was doing in this whole contract, and I know you don't want to talk about sponsorships and what the brand brings to you, because that's all ifs. They're not written down in a contract per se. But if you play this thing really smart, you could have had so much in front of you. We talk about all the sponsors that come along, the eyes, the eyeballs that the brand, and like it or not, the Cowboys are the #1 franchise in the league when it comes to sports. And I'm saying, visibility. Whether the Cowboys are playing bad or not, they're talking about the Cowboys regardless. So he could have made so much money, and we've talked about Dak when his contract came about, the amount of money that he makes from that. And again, those are no guarantees, but I think this whole thing went down south a long time ago. And initially I was thinking, oh, well, we know Jerry says it. He likes the soap opera. He likes the drama. Part of me thought at some point we'll be taking those pictures of them doing a press conference, new deals getting signed. But the moment you made that disrespectful, then that's the moment you ended the whole thing.
Question for the table: how many people do you think, whether player, personnel, staff, whoever, walked up to Jerry Jones and said, "Boy, we just got whooped by Green Bay. I don't like Micah talking to Jordan Love on this podcast. Like, boy, like we just got smoked. I don't like Micah sumo wrestling with C.J. Stroud over there in Japan or whatever. Should we be should the best player of your defense be more football focused?" And we hear the Tank Lawrence issues, or like Malik Hooker comes out and says some things. I wonder how many people went to Jerry and maybe that influenced some of his thinking.
Yeah. Honestly, I can't speak to that part.
Sure.
I do know, and we all know because we've been around this team, these kinds of things, these kinds of little stories have been cropping up throughout the time that Mike is here. And I look, let me be very clear here. I don't want this to turn into a bash Micah session.
Nope.
Micah was a great player for this team.
Yep.
Micah was on the trajectory to being a Hall of Fame player. Yep. And the reality is today, as we sit here today, this hurts. I don't care what you got back in compensation. I don't care how great it might feel in the future, and that's a might. Right now, it hurts. You lost a player that is young and on a trajectory to the Hall of Fame. That you can't replace that right now. So let's make sure that that's clear. But I think two things can be true in this instance. I also think there have been lots of little stories that I've heard, that I'm sure you guys have heard, that he hasn't always been someone that in the locker room everybody respected the way he went about his business. Mm-hmm. And I think as a part of that, again, I don't know how much of that got to Jerry. I know that it's something where when Jerry said in the press conference, he was asked, how is this going to play in the locker room? And he said, I think we're going to be okay there. I think that's because I don't think there was a situation where everybody felt like, oh my God, we got to have Micah here.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And that's not taking away from what he does on the field. He is a phenomenal player. I just don't know that everybody liked all the things about Micah.
I was surprised with the work that we did on 105.3, and then Vach and I did a show last night. And I always like to go through and read the comments from the fans and stuff like that. And I was surprised of how many people were like, hey, listen, this will be fine. They'll move on. They'll be good. And the picks will be fine. You know, those are the kinds of things. As much as I thought it would be opposite of that, it really was surprising. Yes, there's people that absolutely say, hey, this is a terrible idea. This is not going to work. You know, I don't care what picks you got back. I don't care who, you know, this, that, and the other. I was surprised the number of fans that were just like ready to kind of move on. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, that's something that, you know, I didn't really expect. Me personally, being on the pro personnel side, Jerry talked about unanimous. I might have been a guy that stood up and said, we need to think about this, you know, and I would have been, and I would have got voted down. There's no question. But I think there's things that you need on your team, and he is that type of a player. Now, people say, well, he didn't do it in the playoffs. We hadn't had a lot of playoff games to come through. Mm-hmm. But just that ability to maybe turn a game around that way, I think that's what I would have stood up for. I would have stood up and said exactly what I did about, gosh, guys, we got good news on Diggs. You know, let's try and let's help Flues here. Let's see if we can do these things. You know, so I would have got voted down, but I think I would have stood up and said, are we really sure that we absolutely need to do this? And what are the reasons why we're doing it? That's what I would have liked to have seen.
Well, you know, Brian, fans and Cowboy fans in particular, you know, they'll hate Jason Witten to get Rico Gathers on the field. Like that's typically like the Cowboy fans hate their best players. No doubt. But the one thing that I am with them on is I just wish that the draft compensation was a little bit better. Me and you are draft guys.
Oh, yeah.
So when we go into the draft show,
it's going to be fun.
When we go into the draft show, we're going to hope that we get a player like Micah Parsons. Yeah. We're going to hope to get a player like – so I feel like if you have a guy like him, I would give those first-round picks back and just send the pick to go get Kenny Clark. So now you got Kenny Clark and Micah Parsons.
Yeah, I agree.
But,
well, here's what we'll do. We're going to actually take a break. When we come back, I do want to talk about the compensation. I want to get into the nuts and bolts of the deal and see if this was really, in our opinion, a good deal for the Cowboys and who actually won the trade. Sometimes both teams win. Sometimes one team wins. We'll see. We'll talk about that when we come back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
AT&T has a new guarantee because most things in life are not guaranteed, like getting through self-checkout by yourself.
Warning, each item must be placed in the bagging area.
Not guaranteed.
Place item in the bagging area. Place item in the bagging area.
You know what AT&T guarantees? Connectivity you depend on, deals you want, and service you deserve. Or we make it right. Terms and conditions apply. Visit att.com/guarantee for details. AT&T. Connecting changes everything.
Hey y'all, Matt Pittman here. As the official pitmaster of the Dallas Cowboys, you know I take cookware seriously, especially when it comes to America's team. So when the Cowboys are away, I'm putting my Yeti cast iron skillets to work to make my game day favorites for friends and family. I'm talking chicken fried steak, skillet queso, and peach cobbler. And just like the Cowboys are forever, so are these heirloom cast iron skillets. Check out the full line of skillets on Yeti.com or at a Yeti store near you.
Every day begins with a promise to work hard and to build a future. That's why we're here, providing the tools, expertise, and John Deere equipment you have relied on for generations to help you get the job done right. We're with you. That's our promise to you, because no matter the project or the challenge you're facing,
we're with you. We're united. If you shout, "How about them Cowboys?" you have that undeniable passion that's the heart of Cowboys Nation. And if you like to drink Dr. Pepper, you love the unique blend of its 23 flavors. Together, your one-of-a-kind fandom paired with the one-of-a-kind taste of a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper is the game day lineup that can't be beat. Better yet, gather your Cowboys and Dr. Pepper fan friends to watch the next game and crack open a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper for everyone. The wins will be even tastier. It's a pepper thing.
Don't put off getting your oil changed, Dallas. Take 5 Oil Change, a proud partner of the Cowboys, is faster than you think. They're so fast, you don't even have to get out of your car. You can take advantage of Take 5's stay-in-your-car 10-minute oil change at any of their locations across the Dallas area. And remember, at Take 5, you stay in your car because they're faster than you think. That means you won't even have time to show off your best touchdown celebration. Take 5, the official oil change of the Dallas Cowboys.
Back to the break.
Choose perfection. Choose LG OLED Evo. Check out the best TV in the game at LG.com.
Welcome back. It is the second segment of the break live from SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. The segment brought to you by blockchain.com. All right, we're talking Micah Parsons. Let's talk about the compensation. And here's what I want to do. I think that you can just kind of just out of the blue just say, okay, is it enough to get 2 first-round picks and a player that's been to 3 Pro Bowls? Maybe not. Some people question what he did last year, but all that being said, he's a 3-time Pro. Yeah, he's a 3-time Pro Bowler. So I give him the benefit of the doubt that he's at least a good player. That all being said, here's what I want to do. I want to take it in a little different direction. I think a fair comp would be Khalil Mack and what happened with Khalil Mack when he was traded from the Raiders. In that trade, the Raiders got 2 first-round picks. They got a 3rd-round pick and a 6th-round pick. And in exchange, they gave up Mack, they gave up a 2nd-rounder, and they gave up a 7th. So essentially, they swapped giving up a 2nd to get a 3rd, and they gave up a 7th to get a 6th, plus the 2 first-round picks. When you grade it based upon the comp of a guy that was 27 years old, I think at the time, not only that, he was, and people say, well, Micah's better. Micah ain't never been Defensive Player of the Year. Khalil Mack was Defensive Player of the Year.
Run game,
a couple years before that.
Everything.
He was a full-time, all-around defensive end. Sure. That being said, how do you think this rates from a comp standpoint of what the Cowboys got versus what the Raiders got?
Once you say it that way, it probably evens out. But one thing that I need to just look at is how bad were the Bears the next year, because Green Bay, they're probably going to be in the 20s. They're in the 20s already. They're a playoff team already, and they add your best player, and now he's their best player. If the Bears are bad for the next 2 years for those 2 draft picks, now you're picking top 12 and top 15 for those 2 years. Mm-hmm. So that's where I think the biggest difference is, and that was my whole thing. Like, man, so now if the Cowboys win and if Green Bay win, we got 2 picks in the 20s. That's fine, but that's not really going to wet your whistle like you want. I would have preferred for it to be like a top 12 team, but maybe top 12 team isn't in win now mode right now to where they're going to get Micah Parsons. So I guess in that way, it makes sense when you think about Mac. Like, Micah isn't TJ Watt. Where if they decide to run at TJ Watt will punish you for it. If you run at Micah, that's like a universal thing that teams could do to get away from Micah. So I think it makes sense in that way. Right.
Yeah, it's I kind of wonder how many teams were really involved in this, and and sometimes that kind of that will make you feel like that, okay, we have to do this and this is the best compensation. If in fact the Ravens were involved, that was a team that was mentioned. How many other teams? I think Arizona was a team that was mentioned that they were involved. Was Green Bay's compensation package? I don't think this thing was just built on, hey, Kenny Clark and throw him in and we're going to stop the run.
Sure.
I just sometimes, and I've sat in that chair where you make call and you make call and you make call and you make call, and then maybe one team says we're in, and they're like, listen, we're not getting anybody else involved here, and we're going to have to do this. We got 2 ones. Or is everybody good with that? And if that's the case, so maybe Dallas was really kind of limited to the direction or they could go. We just
there was no bidding war.
Yeah, there was nothing. I mean, they made the determination in a meeting that they were going to move on from Micah Parsons. Alex Loomis or whoever makes calls is, or maybe Stephen Jones making calls, and all of a sudden it's like, well, Green Bay's in. I talked to guys in Green Bay, a couple of weeks ago, and they're like, yeah, we're in, but they haven't called. We're in. I mean, we'll listen, but we haven't called. Nobody's called. So once they made the determination and they started maybe making calls, maybe Green Bay was the only team. And if that's the case, you probably did pretty well. If you're interested in moving Micah Parsons, it's really hard to compare these deals when, if you tell me, is there 2 teams involved? Is there 3 teams involved? Is there only 1 team involved? And sometimes all you need is one team that's, willing to, is that desperate. I think about Jamal Adams, getting traded, and what with the compensation for, and it just was it was really a lot, and you're like, man, that for Jamal Adams, that's crazy. But that's just one team that wanted that player that bad, and they were willing to give up what they had to give up to get it done. So I just would like to know if in fact there were more teams. My guess is there weren't. My guess is that Green Bay was the only team, and that's why they made the offer they did.
One thing to note there, Brian, if you believe how Jerry qualified how this all went down, the way he made it sound was they particularly were hunting teams that had defensive tackle talent that they wanted in order to improve the run defense. So if that's the case, to your point, it may have limited the number of teams they were even willing to talk to, because if, let's say, for example, and I don't know who the defensive tackles are in Baltimore, but let's assume Baltimore doesn't. Well,
real good.
Whatever the team is, let's assume there's a team out there, because I know somebody had mentioned, like, would you talk to the Patriots? Whatever that team was, I think the question would be, does that team have the quality of defensive tackle you're looking for, and are they willing to part with that defensive tackle? I think that's the part where it did, if that's the way they really approached it, and that's going to limit the number of teams that would be potential trade partners in this thing.
Yeah.
And that, I think, could affect compensation probably as much as anything else.
Yeah. Please.
I was just gonna say, I think, you could have gotten a better trade for it, but at the same time, when you're mentally already set with the idea that you're willing to part ways with somebody, you're willing to take what is given. Not that they were cheaping out, I think that they feel good about the decision that they made. But thinking about, while you guys were talking and having that conversation just now, I'm thinking, okay, given the current state of the team on the defense, and looking at the secondary, and we talked about it yesterday briefly, you talk about a secondary that is not great at the moment, not fully healthy either. And what helps the secondary? The pass rush. Getting to the quarterback. That's the way to get at the quarterback. So it's, I'm trying to buy this idea that yes, you do need defensive tackle, you need help at stopping the run, but at the same time, right now, I would be willing to say I prefer a pass rusher than trying to stop the run. And I've seen all those games where the running backs have ran all over the Cowboys defense, but currently is I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, where's the value right now? Which one is more valuable to you at the moment?
I think that's a valid question. I want to kind of broaden that question a little bit.
Sure.
I was thinking last night about the defensive ends in the NFL that I think are the best defensive ends. And when you run down the list for me of the top 5 or 6, the vast majority of them, their teams weren't even in the playoffs last year.
Sure.
And it made me wonder, is today's NFL, is it more important to have a group of pass rushers that you can manufacture pressure rather than having one stud player that is such a dominant force that teams have to pay extra attention to him? Is it a prerequisite to have one of those guys in order to be successful in the NFL in today's game?
Well, it would help if you had that stud pass rusher, because then it makes everybody else better.
Fair.
That's the thing about it, is because they're going to have to figure out. Here's your hope right now that Donovan Ezraku comes in there, and I'm going to be real honest here. Practices have looked like that type of player. Preseason games haven't looked like that type of player. And maybe it's because he's been rushing off the left side that hasn't been the case. He's a right side rusher. The people at Boston College, Vach and I watched a lot of tape of him playing. He was a left-right, side guy and playing him, linebacker stand-up. I have a feeling what's going to happen is now that Donovan Ezraku is going to take over a lot of the roles that Micah Parsons had. And whether that's that mug, A-gap attacker, if it's the left end, right end, I think that's where they're going to move Donovan Ezraku around. But they're going to need him to play. They're going to need to find a way to manufacture sacks and pressures with the guys they have. This is now huge on Sam Williams. If Sam Williams wants to get contract extension from the Dallas Cowboys, go out and have a big sack year. Go out and show that, okay, well, hey, you're a quarter of the price of Micah Parsons, but man, we're getting something out of you. That's kind of where I think this thing is at. They're going to need some guys, probably 2 or 3 guys, to be Micah Parsons together. in order to make this thing really, really work.
Just to be clear, I would rather have Micah, but Derek did get me thinking. Like, think about the teams that, like the Final Four teams, right?
Yeah.
Like Washington rolled out Dante Fowler and Dorrance Armstrong, but
Dorrance
they
is
played
their best. Yeah.
But they played good team ball. Like Louvu would be the one that's tearing it up, right? Or the Eagles, like they move on from Reddick, but guys from
Which, by the way, at that point, Reddick was considered one of the better pass rushers in the league. Yeah.
Right. But then Milton Williams kind of steps up and they play team ball, and Jalen Hunt that we're going to talk about next Tuesday most likely. Like those guys step up and they play like better team football. To Derek's point, that is fair, and you would have Micah, but what a team would do is just do what your whole defense is bad at and just run right at you. Micah, the pass rusher, doesn't matter if we can just run right at you. So that's a fair point, Derek. And with Kenny Clark, I assume we're gonna have a segment where we just talk about Kenny Clark.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that.
Kenny Clark does get busy in the run game. He does, and I think he'll help Osa and the other guys around him as a run defender. And maybe you'll get into these shootout type games to where, all right, Donovan Ezra-Rock, who's not having to play the run 40 times a game.
Is your concept possible? Yes. We've seen examples of it. But have we seen a game without Micah Parsons on the defense playing? Yes. Did I like it? No.
I mean, last year they were clearly not as good on defense when he was
again,
not
the
out
team and everything looks
the
different
metrics will
right
tell
now.
you they're one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah.
He's off the
no doubt.
He's definitely a very impactful player, and I know you agree with that. And but that's not to say yes, it's possible to create a group of guys that can still rush to the quarterback, stop the run, but it's so much easier and better when you got a guy like Micah.
Yeah, well, let's also be clear. The last year, if you're looking at the metrics from last year, you also understand that there was only one guy that's going to be playing this year for the Cowboys at edge that was on that group.
Yeah.
That's Nealon. You got Sam Williams back. Hopefully he's healthy. We'll see what you can get out of him. But you got Fowler.
Botch all of a sudden is a Sam Williams fan, I see.
Well, Sam is on the team now. Well, we can fight if you want to.
You're changing your demeanor. No. All of a sudden you're changing your demeanor. Now you like Sam. Now you want to see him. He's going to get to the quarterback.
Ambar,
We have it on tape.
I don't make the decisions.
We have it on
the Dallas
record.
Cowboys chose, which is interesting, Brian. The Dallas Cowboys
Why are you dragging
chose,
me in this?
Well, you got to do what you got to do. I need help. Shelby screaming and waving her hands.
We got it on record.
Waving her hands. But look, the Cowboys chose to go heavy at edge for whatever reason. Yeah. And Brian loves going to radio. Hey, man, they going to cover their ass if anything. So that's what they did. So going into camp, James Houston, there's no way James Houston's going to make the team. But you get more information. So now James Houston shows you more. Let's say Sam Williams shows you more. And now Micah Parsons is gone.
Yeah.
You damn right you need Sam Williams and James Houston.
Now he looks better.
Sam looked like Micah.
I kind of feel like that everybody they brought to camp made this team. Don't they have like 12 defensive linemen now?
They got 6 defensive tackles, Brian. So I got questions.
Well, that's also one thing. They're going to have to make a move before this goes through final, right? One more roster move?
Don't think so.
No, they have a room on the roster right now to put Clark on without having to move somebody else.
They cut Flournoy.
That was for
the lineman. Yeah, so absolutely they did.
So I think they have. So my question is, I wonder if there's a defensive tackle that's currently on this roster that will no longer be on this roster once Kenny Clark
Weren't we
is on.
talking about Mozzie?
I didn't say Mozzie.
I saw your eyes.
I said,
damn it, I said
I read your brain.
Vash said Mozzie, and the
I think Derek's trying to lead us to water here. I think he knows something we don't know.
I'm asking
Clark took
question.
Micah's
We about to go to
spot.
break, and I'm ass, huh?
Clark took Micah's
you're
spot.
right. Yeah, he took. Wait, but
yeah,
I thought. Okay, I'll check it out.
Micah
I'll
was
check
on
it
the
out. I'll check it out
roster.
the break. But I thought there was another spot that they still had to get rid of in order to bring Clark on. But we'll see. But it is a question
because
are they going to go?
Micah was not in some special category. So he was actually on the roster.
Season?
Yeah.
The question is, are they going to go into the season with, as you said, was it 6 defensive tackles?
Now. Yeah.
I have a hard time thinking they will.
I thought carrying 5 was some nonsense, but now that you got Kenny Clark, I think you can maybe let go of 2 of them. But let's see.
Yeah, and my guess is that they're going to try to probably bring Flournoy. They're probably going to try to re-sign him to their practice squad and then try to elevate him is what I would guess to be their 5th wide receiver. But we'll see how that all plays out.
Look, when this news happened, I cared nothing about Childress at all. I cared nothing about all this other stuff. Just didn't even matter anymore. I was like, damn, they just shot Flo. That's what I said in my mind. But hey, maybe they got some more moves to make. We'll go to break and come back.
All right, we're going to take our final break. We will come back. And the question I have for these guys is, how much do you trust the Cowboys with all the extra cap space they have now and with all the extra draft picks that they have, that they will use that to really be able to affect change for their team going forward? We'll be back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
If you can't be at the stadium, there's no better way to watch your Cowboys than on an LG OLED Evo TV. That's because everything you see is more lifelike. Every play, every hit. I mean, you might as well be on the sidelines. That's how clear it is. It's all thanks to LG's legendary technology. Perfect black, over 8.3 million self-lit pixels. No one comes close. LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game for a reason. See for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
As America's leading business lender, Bank of America is on your corner and in your corner. With over $9 billion in business loans and more than 140 business specialists right here in North Texas, we help businesses thrive so communities prosper. What would you like the power to do? Learn more at bankofamerica.com/local business. Bank of America, official bank of FIFA Club World Cup 2025. Copyright 2025 Bank of America Corporation, all rights reserved.
From the field to the festivities, Lucchese embodies the essence of luxury and tradition. Handcrafted with meticulous precision, each pair offers unmatched comfort and style. Stand tall while you're tailgating or cheering in the stands with the Dallas Cowboys collection by Lucchese. Shop the collection today at the Lucchese store at the Star in Frisco or online at lucchese.com. Lucchese, the official boot of the Dallas Cowboys and Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders.
AT&T has a new guarantee because most things in life are not guaranteed, like getting through self-checkout by yourself.
Warning, each item must be placed in the bagging area.
Not guaranteed.
Place item in the bagging area. Place item in the bagging area.
You know what AT&T guarantees? Connectivity you depend on, deals you want, and service you deserve. Or we make it right. Terms and conditions apply. Visit att.com/guarantee for details. AT&T. Connecting changes everything.
Back to the break.
AT&T, connecting changes everything.
Welcome back. We are in the final segment of the Break Live from SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. Just a programming note. I know you guys probably were expecting us to spend some time today talking about the Philadelphia Eagles and talking about the Cowboys offense versus the Eagles defense.
I don't think people were expecting that. I think
Well,
we were expecting exactly what we're doing.
We had a banger show yesterday.
We did. It was a really good show. And I know fans come to expect that we're going to get them ready for the next game. Just know we're pushing that. We're going to talk about that on Tuesday. So Tuesday we will get into some more talk about the Philadelphia Eagles and the setup of the Cowboys offense versus the Eagles defense. So make sure you check us out on Tuesday for that. All right, let's talk a little bit about what comes after this move. The Cowboys now have 4 first-round picks in the next 2 years. The Cowboys now have in excess of $40 million in cap space. I don't know if I remember the last time the Cowboys had that much room to maneuver between picks and, I mean, consequential picks. I know people are killing me right now on social media because they're like, these first round picks aren't like, they're more like second round picks because you're getting second round grades because it's going to be late.
That's my fault.
I don't care. First round picks are first round picks. Number one, they give you 5 years with that player because you can use the 5th-year option. And number two, the beauty of it is you got 4 of them. You can package them together to move pretty much anywhere you want to move in the draft. I look at it and I say, if next year, let's assume that the Packers are in the Super Bowl. So you get the 31st pick next year from them. Every year, how many times do we see teams that are like, I'm in the second round, I want to trade back into the first round. I will give you my second from this year and give you my first next year in order to get back into the bottom end of the first round. Yeah. I would be looking to do that kind of thing, and then going into 2027, I now have 3 first-round picks. And quite frankly, I don't care where they are. The fact of the matter is 3 first-round picks can allow you the room to be able to move almost anywhere you want to move in the draft. And looking at 2027, that gives you all kinds of leverage with regards to any position. And I don't care what the position is. Any position you want to go target, you got the room now to be able to do that. How much do you guys trust that the Cowboys can take advantage of this room, all this capital, whether it is in draft picks, whether it is in money, cap space. How do you think that they will fare in using this to actually improve this team for the long term?
I understand Cowboy fans are sick of Mizey Smith, but if there's like draft misses, they're gonna say Mizey, they're gonna say like Taco Charlton or something like that, and that's way back. Yeah. But besides that, I think the Cowboys are a team that's trustworthy with draft picks. So I was saying during the break, we're talking about, well, the Raiders they didn't benefit all this from this. Was some teams suck at drafting, like some teams just aren't good at this. The Raiders will get the 4th overall pick and draft Cleveland Farrell or something like that. The Cowboys typically won't miss that Not big wrong. In that way. And think about what happens in the back portions of these drafts. That's where some of your better running backs are. That's where, some of these, hey, linebackers not important, so it'll fall to the back of the first round. Think about what happened at the back of the first round this year. Matthew Golden that we loved, and some of these other wide receivers, they fell there. And this wasn't considered like a great top-heavy draft in that way. So if you get lucky and get a good draft, and the Cowboys typically don't miss in that way, I think that you can benefit. Now, the one thing that I will say is, Jerry Jones, I feel like he's lying to us when he looks at us saying, boy, I'll take that first. I might get a player. That ain't what you do, dog. So I'm not really, buying that hype. You're gonna take that first and use that first. You may send your second because you got 2 ones now, and that may make you feel a little more comfortable. But I'm not buying the idea that you're gonna use that first to get a player. As far as money goes, we pay our guys, and that's all I got on that one.
Well, I would separate it into 2 categories. One is draft, and one is the money that you have available. When it comes to draft, I trust completely. Exactly what you said, Vach. I trust everything based on the record history that they've... All right, it's not based on what you said. It's based on what they've done.
I'm sorry.
Based on what they've done.
We just agree. It wasn't my point, but we just agree. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But based on what they've done, I have full trust that they'll get best players available and they'll do what they need to do, whether that is making a trade and moving up, down, whatever they decide to do, I'm all for it. What I'm a little hesitant in the trusting process is what they do with this money that has become available, because not that they haven't been able to get players, but a lot of the times it's not necessarily that flashy player that fans would expect and get super excited about. It's more often than not one of those veteran guys that, yeah, they've done some things, they have the experience, but it's not a superstar. Sure. So that's where the question is, when is the now is what I'm trying to get. Like, what year are we currently focusing on at this point? Because initially I thought it was 2 years ago, then last year. Then now I'm thinking, okay, well, this year now has become a question mark in my head. So as you continue to build the team, when are you going to get to that point in that year where it all actually starts coming back together?
If it's me, I would say right now. I'm calling Mulligetta fighting right now, but I'm calling about Pickens. I'm calling about Aubrey. We're going to take care of Tyler Smith. Yeah. And since we don't have to pick now, Deron Bland, come on home, player. That's what I'm doing right this second. And if I can get him cheaper by doing it right this second, don't even wait the rest of the season out. I'm doing it as of today.
Get it done.
I like
you got the money. Get it done.
I like what you're saying. Tyler Smith would be line 1 for me, and then I think maybe Brandon Aubrey. I'll be 30 years old and all that. He's going to be a restricted guy in 2026, but maybe get ahead of that. This kicker market's kind of, for some reason, it's starting to go north more. And so maybe try and get ahead of that and think about Bland and stuff like that. I'll say this about using the picks, and this is just the honest truth. I feel like those picks give you the opportunity to play in the quarterback market if you want to do it.
Absolutely.
And I mean, this is football. I'm not trying to bash Dak Prescott here, but now – the next couple of years, you could take a swing at that if you want. Now, the Cowboys haven't taken a swing at that. Vach made a very good point this morning when he and I were doing some work. Unlike Amber, I like you. So he made a really good point about sometimes the Cowboys' attitude about quarterbacks is let it just fall in our lap. Yeah. They've had
and they've gotten lucky.
They've gotten really lucky on some quarterbacks that are just falling in their lap, and so. I think that at least this gives you the flexibility to play in the 2026 market, and it gives you some flexibility to play in the 2027 market if you want to do that for a quarterback. If that's because that seems to be the one reason why people would take multiple picks and move to go get these types of players. It gives you that flexibility, which I think that they absolutely covet.
Also, too, Brian, what I'm thinking, because I'm seeing a bunch of viewers in the chat here, and I'm just seeing it all over social media. People saying Arch Manning. What you would have to have is a team with a franchise quarterback to be terrible. So let's say Tennessee Titans are sitting up there, and they got Cam Ward, a franchise quarterback already. You would hope that they're saying, "Hey, let's get a haul. We have a guy." If the Saints are up there, they're not trading away from Arch Manning. It's in family ties and all that kind of. They'll never trade
unless you
away.
just overpay, which I don't think.
Unless
you
you overpay.
Yeah.
But if it's a team that has a franchise quarterback and they're kind of bad and they're up there, I think that's the best shot that you have. And then you got picks, like Derek says.
Yeah.
Okay, I know we're out of time and I'm hungry, but
we're never out of time, please.
But Brian, when you said they've gotten lucky at quarterback, which is true, then that made me think, what is not to say that maybe they think they can do it again?
Oh, sure.
And not try to get that
luck is
in
a terrible plan. Isn't that what they say? Luck is a terrible plan.
Yeah,
but they've done it so many times.
Or hope
now.
is a terrible plan.
Yeah, no, I that's fair, Amber, because I do think sometimes you can lure yourself into a false sense of security when something works that probably shouldn't work.
Yeah,
and then when it works twice, you probably start thinking, we could probably figure it out, right?
Joe Milton will have to show me so much.
Yeah,
that made me lose
I guess my point is, and I love what you were saying there, Brian. I just think. You got options. That's the whole point. You got options. By the way, if Dak lights it up this year and he's back to what he was 2 years ago when he was a runner-up for MVP in the league, hey, man, we're not talking about quarterbacks. You know what we're talking about?
Wide receiver running.
Can you get me an edge guy?
Yeah.
You feel like you need an edge? Go get an edge. Yeah. You feel like you need a wide receiver? Go get a wide receiver.
Sure.
You feel like you need a running back? You got all the options in the world, and you can go. And like you said, I do trust this scouting department. No scouting department in the NFL is perfect. Mm-hmm. I'll put this one up against most. Yep. And I'll say if you give them 4 cracks at it, I think they're going to hit on probably at least 3 of those. At least 3 of those, right.
It's really Mozzie and Taco. Like,
if Michigan's involved, we have no chance.
It's Mozzie and Taco. And everybody else has been like, they've either been really, really good or there was an issue from a health. Leighton Vander Esch was a good player until he was hurt and his neck just couldn't hold up, right? But I don't think they have missed outside of those 2 players potentially, and I'm not going to say Mozzie's a miss yet because we don't know what he's going to be this year.
He's one of 12.
but,
right now.
but what I'm saying is now, those are the only 2 you really can point to in the first round that this team has whiffed on, and I think that's the part where I'm like, okay, so give them 4 shots at it. I feel pretty good they're going to hit on the majority of those.
For sure.
All right, guys, appreciate you joining us. We'll be back on Tuesday. We'll get you guys ready for Cowboys versus Eagles, man. This is going to be an interesting season, so buckle up. Lots to talk about throughout the year. Make sure you join the break every day for your fix. Till then, for Voch Lombardi, Brian Broaddus, Amber Garcia, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!